And I'd like to introduce you to our panel of speakers. We're going to go a little out of order here. We've got David Chalber from Mattel. We've got Rick Pensa from CPGToolBox. We've got Austin Wildmore from PolSource. And we've got Gavin Frank from Salesforce. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this off to Rick to start us off.
Thank you. So we're here today to talk about the success that Mattel has had from transitioning from a spreadsheet system into a CPGToolBox for their trade promotion spending. When we first were introduced to Mattel, it was because of an RFP, and they were looking for, they had gone through a process where they were looking for a partner to work within their trade promotion activity and to help their global viewpoint on trade promotion activity to transition into something different. And so we came with two products. We had, first of all, our contract planner. So we've got two products that work with trade promotion. One is contract planner, and the other is trade planner, which is a more traditional trade calendar kind of product. Contract planner is a rebate management tool. So when we met Mattel, they were spending hundreds of millions of dollars on trade and doing it across hundreds, if not thousands, of spreadsheets. And interestingly enough, that's where 75% of consumer goods manufacturers are, in spreadsheets. And so we came up with a collaborative effort to try to get them out of spreadsheets and get them into a tool. And that's where I think the fun really got started. And so I want to let David talk about what that meant.
Just a quick show of hands. Who's ever bought a Mattel toy, played with a Mattel toy, known somebody, known a child, had a child, been a child? So most of us in this room have had some interaction with our company across their lifespan. And that's a huge responsibility for us. We do that across the world. So we are a children's entertainment company. We not only sell beloved toys that we've all played with and given to nieces, nephews, and sons and daughters, but we also develop experiences. We have live events across the world. We have theme parks. We have Thomas theme parks in the UK and elsewhere. And we also have entertainment. We have a burgeoning content business on both TV and theatricals. So we're in multiple lines of business, all centered around the child and the family. The core of what we do, though, is market and sell toys across the world. So we're in business directly in 40 countries around the world. We sell to consumers in 150 countries around the world. And we do about $5 billion. So that kind of gives you the size and shape of what we'll be talking with you today about. I think flip a couple of slides. One more? Okay. So just to kind of ground us in what we were trying to do when we started working with CPGToolBox. We have a massive amount of customers, 5,000 plus customers that we directly sell to across the globe. We are in an industry, much like many manufacturers, where retail trade is very dynamic. You've got growth of omni-channel and e-commerce, but at the same time, we have some of our legacy retailers. Most of us know Toys R Us went out of business last year in a couple of key markets. So we're dealing with this massive shift in the trade landscape, as well as trying to manage a sizable hundreds of millions of dollar budget across our business through disparate systems. Yes, we do use Excel. We also have some homegrown systems that are very legacy and some others that are very new, but we didn't have one single unified place where we could kind of garner our insights, pull it up, understand it, and apply it across a broader base. So what we were looking to do as a company was really centered around gaining deeper insight and understanding into those hundreds of millions of dollars, enabling our sales force, who is out there deploying those resources to drive our business, so trying to enable them with the best information possible, and then trying to do it in a very efficient manner across a broad ecosystem. So what we like to do in our business, and our Hot Wheels teams says this all the time, is challenge accepted. So we took that burden on and we went out to market. So how did we do this? Well, what we did was a little SWAT team came together and we started to assess the market, to educate ourselves on what exactly are we looking for and what exists out there. Once we got comfortable that we knew what we were looking for, we brought on some external consultants to help us with a formalized process. The first thing we did with those consultants is we created an internal team. Now this was a cross-functional and multinational team of about 25 people that came from a myriad of our countries. They were salespeople, they were finance people, they were IT people. So we wanted all the folks that worked in this ecosystem to come together. And then we put them forward and asked them to start mapping their process. So we started mapping processes, gathering data, trying to understand what's the lowest common denominator here. Is this something that we can do globally? All right, once we got comfortable with that, we went to market with 12 world-class providers on an RFP, brought that back, we down selected to 6, and invited them to our offices in El Segundo for 6 half-day sessions in front of that 25-person multinational team. So, next slide. Out of that, what we did was landed on CPGToolBox, and there's really 3 reasons. The first was the platform. It's on Salesforce. We were looking for a global platform. We were looking for something that was industrialized. We didn't have to worry about it, language, currencies, is it going to work behind the Chinese firewall? And is it scalable? You know, if we're going to make this investment, can we leverage it across something else? So for us, Salesforce was a neat fit to what we were looking to do. The second thing was the application itself. And CPGToolBox really fit well with our needs. It does both contractual and discretionary, so we wanted a whole view of our trade spend. It is strong and simple processes. As I said, we had this disparate set of processes around the globe. We knew if we were left to design our own process, we'd still be doing it today. So we wanted something that we could conform to that wasn't overly complex, all right? And we found that in CPGToolBox. We wanted to make sure it could be used to close our books, so budgets and actuals. And then finally, we were looking for a light upfront investment. We knew it was going to take a lot of effort on our part. What we also didn't want to do was put in a lot of money when the payback was unclear. So the application really fit well with what we were going to market for. And then finally, the company, CPG and their partners, PolSource, really it was about a responsive, flexible company that can work with us, bring their expertise to the table, that really defines themselves by this space, which I think CPGToolBox does well. And we can also benefit from their clients longer term. So a really nice fit for what we were looking to do and what capabilities CPGToolBox, Salesforce, and PolSource brought to the table. Next slide. So what is this one? This is what have we accomplished so far? So just to give you a sense of timing, we decided and landed on CPGToolBox in August of last year. We were not a Salesforce customer in the typical sense. So our first order of business was to get our customers up on Salesforce, so the customer master. We had that live by November globally. By February, we had the contractual part of CPGToolBox up and running. We had all of our customers' contracts around the globe in the system. And then we set out to define and design how to set up our discretionary. We had that live by summer of this year. Where we are currently today is we are madly at work, what I call filling up the bucket. Our folks around the globe are putting trade spend into the system so that we can have a holistic picture of how we spend our money with our retail customers across the globe. Next slide. And so, where are we today? These are the 3 areas that we were looking to hit on. out of the gate. So the first is we have now our arms around all of our spend in a common way across the globe. That is a big benefit. We have a common taxonomy and we can understand our spend. We also can report on that global spend and start to build the internal nomenclature for how we discuss our business. From an effectiveness point of view, we've delivered information at the point of decision making to our sales teams around the globe. And then from an efficiency point of view, we've really done a good job of setting up the workflows to take out a lot of the manual effort that is done across the whole platform and ecosystem. So we find ourselves hitting on all the things we set out to do at the start, and we're in a fairly good place in a very short time. So what are we looking to do? As we go forward, our goal is to deploy our resources to drive our sales globally. All right, so we're looking at how do we allocate these resources across the changing customer landscape. We're looking at how to provide intelligence to our sales teams at the point of decision making so that they can design better promotions. And we're looking to do this in an optimized and efficient way so that we can spend the money in a knowingly way to drive those ultimate sales. Okay. So just in summary, in our little kind of anecdote here of how Mattel has implemented the tool, we started out in a very purposeful approach. We did not, select something and run out there. We spent time and energy and effort internally to map out what we wanted to do. We relied on strong partners throughout. So we engaged Rick and team. So we engaged their CPGToolBox team quite frequently to help us implement, to help us refine, design, and think about the next steps forward. And at the end of the day, we're not doing this to implement a tool. That's not our job. Our job is to drive business value, and we believe we can drive business value by unleashing our trade spend in a much more productive way through the insight and intelligence that we're garnering from this tool so that we can drive the top line sales and drive value across our business. So that's it for me. I think I'm handing it over to Austin.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just over the course of a couple of slides here is take you through some exciting developments that we've been working on with CPG, with PolSource, and indeed with Salesforce. But before I do that, I thought it was worth setting a little bit of context as to why we're doing these developments in the first place. So you've heard from better? Yes. Normally I usually shout, so I'm not really used to using it. So I thought it was worthwhile just setting in place some context as to why we believe these developments are so important and so important for the industry. So you heard David talk about the work that's going on at Mattel, but to put it into context, consumer goods companies, in which I include Mattel, invest, the top 120 businesses invest just over $1 trillion in trade investment. So I'll give you a simple example, one that I know because I'm a former Pepsi. We spend, at least when I was there 4 years ago, we spend $34 billion in trade off a revenue of $66 billion. So if I wasn't investing that, my turnover would be almost $100 billion. So that's how significant this is. So any slight performance improvement, either in terms of generating new revenue or incremental sales and volume, is phenomenally powerful and represents millions and millions of dollars. But even today, there are still challenges. If we look at some of the key points that are underway, you can see it up here. Consumers change. Their taste, their patterns are changing. It's leading to greater demands for innovation. There's a retailer price war almost on every continent. So retailers are continually pressuring suppliers like Mattel, like Pepsi and P&G to squeeze on incremental discounts or new promotions, everyday low pricing. I'm sure you've seen it in your own supermarket. is possibly the death knell to a brand. Plus, of course, relevance. You know, we've got a younger group of consumers coming through that we now as brands need to target and make relevant and build trust. So all of this is creating significant cost pressures for those businesses. So how do we maximise both our marketing and indeed our trade promotion? You know, those are two levers that as a brand company, we can pull. Well, go forward. What do we typically do when we talk about promotions? So we do our A&P, so our advertising and marketing, and then we get into promotions. So, and this is called a closed loop process. For those of you that are from industry, you'll be familiar with this. And it's really about, I plan, I then model, look at what it's going to drive in terms of volume or in revenue or market share. I then need to sell that into my customer, typically a retailer or a distributor. I then execute that. So hopefully, you know, what we've agreed is going to happen in store actually happens. And then we're going to settle that out either in terms of deductions and payments or rebates. We'll then evaluate it, and then we start the whole cycle again. You know, that's how it works. Yeah. So the good news is things are changing, and technology is enabling that to change now. So I'm gonna talk around a couple of areas and looking at what is going on in the space. So we've now got much greater access to data and granular data. So how do we use that? We've now got AI, machine learning and algorithms that can start to analyse some of those vast volumes of data that we've got available. Plus we've got new cloud platforms and closed loop supporting technologies such as CG Cloud, I'm going to talk about that shortly, that enable us and empower us to do a lot more and basically free up our people to do what they need to do, and that's to sell to their customer. Come with a compelling deal, a compelling promotion that's profitable to everybody, and sell that, not be messing around with spreadsheets or messing around with tools. So, how do we do that? So, we're addressing this in several ways. One, Salesforce is already addressing for us, and that's called CG Cloud. You're going to hear more about that shortly. Second area is in our next iteration of TPM. So here, almost every manufacturer sells to both direct and indirect channels. The indirect channel is a big gaping hole. So we're working very hard and putting considerable IP and R&D into filling that hole. I'll talk briefly about that in a second. And then TPO Cloud, trade promotion optimization. You know, several years ago, TPM was the holy grail, the silver bullet. It's going to solve everything. TPO is the next iteration of that. And people have tried it and got some results, but the secret is really fusing the technologies together. So, you know, the algorithms and maths, they've been around for years. The availability of data is now coming to the fore. There's a desire with retailers and customers to collaborate in more of a collaboration for joint success rather than being, you know, overly aggressive with one another. And of course, you know, there's an appetite from the consumer for continued innovation. So we are now building a solution called TPO Cloud, sits in the CG Cloud, and is available to support TPM, TPO processes. So let's have a look at, okay, read my slide, isn't it? That's TPM. So this is TPM v6. So what we've got here, and you'll recognise that, that's a new look and feel from the CG Cloud. Behind that, this is the new presentation layer and functionality that we're building into our next iteration product. This will support much granular levels of data capture and data processing, deal analysis, scenario planning, to allow you to effectively model what your promotional calendar should look like as a key account manager and how that will work for your customer. So what's something that's called triple net? You know, my margin, my customer's margin, and ultimately, what's a fair price to the consumer? So we're making considerable inroads in that space. It also allows us to support multiple distributors in that equation. And that sounds really simple, but is actually very complex. Often it's simply a route to market. You will sell as a manufacturer to a distributor. A distributor will then sell to a shop, who will then in turn sell to a consumer. The issue is, those shops often work with multiple distributors, maybe for cash flow reasons, for discount reasons, they're competitive as well. So being able to manage that and have transparency as a manufacturer is very, very difficult, and particularly when you're investing promotional dollar into those retail accounts. So massive opportunity here. Anywhere between 40 to 60% of sales go through those indirect channels. So it's a phenomenal offer. We're really excited about that, and that's hopefully coming through around Q1 next year. Now let's talk about optimization. I mentioned briefly, around analytics, AI, data. This is really what we've done, is to fuse together a combination of mathematics, advanced mathematics algorithms, machine learning, some AI, and some significant data processing capability that's available to us on CG Cloud. So let's look at, in reverse order, think back to that trade wheel, that closed loop. What we do now in a TPO world is, first, we start with evaluation. We do it in advance, so it's effectively pre-event evaluation. And how do we do that? We look at how previous events have performed, and we look across it on a variety of different variables. And when I say a variety, I mean broadly 89 data points to determine what is truly causal and what was actually non-consequential. It didn't really matter. We also look at pricing. Consumers don't always buy on price. It can be on presentation. It can be on where it's positioned. They might be more interested in, actually I get 25% all free rather than a couple of cents discount. So understanding all of those different parameters and variables, including seasonality, including the impact of some of your other brands, so something called cannibalization, is all factored into our algorithms. And we then look at and identify which of those event types in certain channels at certain times of year, at certain periods in time, are actually the most powerful. And here we can then look at what's the impact in that place. So here we can do scenario planning. So typically as a manufacturer, I want to do a number of things. I'm either looking for market share, I'm looking to increase my market share, I'm looking for improved profitability. I may be looking for, simply if I'm in a category that's already maxed out, I may be just looking for more profitable sustainment of my current volume. People can only eat or drink so many things or wash their clothes so many times. So you're not going to get necessarily incremental growth if you've got a fixed set of consumers. But these are the levers, as a commercial leader, you will pull. What our tool does is uses those levers that you pull. So I might be saying I want to maintain my market share, but I want to get maybe 1% above organic, so typically 4% growth, and I want to improve my net margin, my MC, by around 3%. So I set that as a top-down target. It's distributed, and then the tool actually runs various evaluation patterns to determine what would be the optimum mix of both investment, a number of promotions, and type of promotions. Once you determine which scenario you like best, you simply pick it, and it will generate a fixed promotional calendar for you with pre-populated with the event types, the pricing mechanics, the causals, how you should display that in store, which channels it should go to, which customers, in fact. Not all customers are equal. Who should have those? And of course, that eliminates an awful lot of work for a key account manager. It frees them up to do what they do, which is to sell. Now, that said, it doesn't prohibit the key account manager from going in and making those changes. At the end of the day, human beings will always be smarter than algorithms. So a key account manager, even if he's got a gut feeling, sales is built on people selling to people. If he's got a gut feeling he can get higher volume or a different price at this particular point, even mathematically or algorithmically, historically, it doesn't say that, we don't prohibit in our tool for them to do that. They can override this, and we track those overrides and actually feed it back into algorithms so they learn. Was the CAM right on that? Probably was. We learn from that and feed that back into our algorithms. So it's incredibly powerful, both in terms of eliminating time doing what can often be quite laborious activities into something that's truly commercially advancing and empowering to the salesperson that allows them to take a winning deal to their customers.
I'm Gavin Frank with Salesforce. I run our solution strategy for retail and consumer goods, and excited to talk about CG Cloud and all the implications it has for our partners and our customers. So I'm just going to set up, which has already been articulated in real-world settings, why it matters. We are focusing on consumer goods based on the disparate needs and the inability today to deliver that perfect store experience, and understanding that there are a number of disparate systems that need to come together and work with a productized view for customers to drive that best experience for their consumers. As everyone has said, the spend on facilitating all of the inputs to how you're going to execute in the field and drive that consumer experience is astounding. So looking to strategize how we were going to go in and provide the tools to address those market needs. So we came up with our Consumer Goods Cloud, and what that is a platform approach to address the needs of consumer goods brands, utilizing all of those inputs and all of those tools from the ecosystem and Abound, driving that together from a platform approach to give a common data model and a common consumption point to be able to build applications both internally with Salesforce as well as the ecosystem to leverage that common data model and those common objects to drive success for their customers. So we launched the solution this year in October, focusing on retail execution as the first touch point. But that execution element is only as strong as the solutions that are providing the insights and then information to be able to drive that perfect store visit. So utilizing internal tools like Einstein, Salesforce Maps, and all of the Salesforce automation processes, and then those nuanced solutions and objects that drive the consumer packaged goods internal processes forward is what we're looking to bite off and looking to deliver for our customers. But what's great about it is right now, as it's a foundational layer, it's really that platform approach with the retail execution application, but it delivers a huge amount of value for great partners like PolSource, like CPGToolBox, to utilize that foundational layer and what we're building to build those nuanced use cases and build analogous and complementary functionality on top of it to provide that comprehensive solution suite for brands like Mattel. So I'm excited to let CPGToolBox now and Ron do.
So you may be sitting here and you may be going, why should we care? And there's a huge reason why you should care, because if you're selling in the CPG industry, it's no accident that David here is a SVP of Finance. So the persona who's most concerned about what we've been talking about is the finance guy. We were just talking about $34 billion of trade from a large CSD, or carbonated soft drink manufacturer. And this is a studied fact, if you move from a spreadsheet into a consolidated system where you have more visibility, accountability, profitability, and that sort of thing, you will drop 5 to 10% of your trade spend to the bottom line. If you're spending $34 million, that's huge. You need to be talking to the CFO or to the people in the finance department to say, you're leaving money on the table, and you can pick that money up and put it to the bottom line. That's what we do. And what's interesting is that we actually work with the account plan. The account plan then must be executed, And executing it through the CG cloud, through retail execution, is the linkage that ties the two pieces together. If I go into to Publix or to Kroger and I sell a major event, there are 3,000 stores that need to be executed against, and we're able to move the information such as what products are authorized to be sold in those stores. We move that into CG Cloud. We also move into CG Cloud the events that are scheduled to be running in that particular account within the next X number of weeks so that they can be executed against. And it's a two-way street, because not only are we sending over the promotional activity to those accounts so that the retail rep, when he or she walks into the store, knows exactly what to execute against, we get compliance measures back from that information. So we tell the retail rep that these products should be in the store, these events should be executed, we get compliance back, we get retail shelf price back, so you see it's a two-way flow of information. And that information makes that account manager smarter and more accountable. And that's the strength we think that tying together, we are a huge platform supporter, because we are probably one of your best Trojan horses to get into a consumer good account. Because trade promotion management is somewhere between 20 and 40% of gross revenue for most CPG companies. That's huge. And if you can drop 10 points of that to the bottom line, that's even larger. So because I said we're a huge platform supporter, if Salesforce is building it, and it makes sense in the CPG industry, we're trying to build on it as well. So we're about to release our Einstein Analytics-based product called Trade Intelligence. Trade Intelligence is Einstein Analytics with a suite of trade analytics dashboards, about 20 trade analytics dashboards, reports, tools to help understand how is my money being spent. And that's now being released here. We're GA about now, but we'll be really hitting the streets hard with that in January. In addition to that, just by the way, we're partnered with PolSource for a very real reason. Number one, they have some of the best developers in the world, and number two, they have some of the best Heroku developers in the world. We have built and are preparing to go out into the marketplace with a Heroku-based tool for our tool, so that we can manage massive and large data sets. So if your clients are interested in dealing with a massive data point, so a broker, Crossmark is one of our clients, so we built Heroku pretty much specifically to try to sell to Crossmark, which has 400 manufacturers that they say grace over. And so moving that level of data into our tool will be much more cost effective and much better when you're putting terabytes of data into the tool. So our Heroku tool is about to hit the market. You've heard about TPO. So we're not just sort of sitting on our laurels, we are moving the process ahead. The question is, do we integrate with ERP systems? Yes, we have integrated with SAP, Oracle, JD Edwards, NetSuite, Sage, don't laugh, but even QuickBooks. So a TPM solution, TPO solution, we call it TPX, is a very data-hungry solution. And the data that we actually ingest into our tool or create within our tool, things like margin, retailer profitability, manufacturer profitability, we actually move over to the TPO models. I think there's something 49 or 50 of those models. And so the data we're collecting in trade promotion management is now being moved over to TPO to further inform those models. And so just like the ability to read back from the CG cloud what the compliance level is on any given event, we can move that information point into the TPO engine to further inform the model based on compliance levels.
She's actually asking too, Mattel, good answer. Yes. Mattel specifically did an ERP integration with their.
Yes.
So Mattel, we do not have a singular ERP. So we're not a SAP shop or anything like that. We have a mix of legacy systems. We're on Oracle for financials. So for us, it was actually a lot more local and disparate systems that we were trying to migrate onto a singular. That makes it easier because you can kind of just focus on where you're going, but it also makes it harder because your starting points are many. Hopefully that kind of answers where you were going.
That does. The second question I have is around when you do trade planning, you were talking about you doing trade planning and you're doing the trade execution as well because you want to match your budget and your actuals and etc. If you already have a solution, and this is for all of you, if you already have a solution that is global and that is doing really good trade execution, can you do the trade planning and then link the two solutions in order to do execution in one solution and planning in another solution, or is your recommendation to do both in one?
Well, clearly, if you're already in a mindset that you have a trade tool, we would want you on our tool. We want you on that platform. However, our TPO planning tool could actually be deployed against another trade tool. Yes. Obviously, to have it all on the Salesforce platform is, we think, a plus because of the. I like what David said. It's industrial in nature, so it doesn't matter whether you're deploying 100 or 10,000 users. It just works.
Yeah. And then, sorry, I'm holding all the questions here, but.
Well, I was going to pile onto that. So,
can you repeat the question that you answered?
yeah, absolutely. So if you have a trade tool or an execution tool already in place, basically do these tools, CPGToolBox and Salesforce integrate?
I have a question for the question.
Yes.
What do you mean by trade execution?
So we've already got a trade execution solution like Mistakes, Pros, etc. that is doing our different markets, and we're doing the execution on it, our contract management, our actuals, our claims, deductions, etc. All of that is done inside the solution. What are we looking for is something that we can do the planning on, that our salespeople can have more visibility to it. And what we were wondering is if we do the execution really well in one application, can this augment it with the planning?
So short answer is yes. The way that we look at the world, so obviously it's not, stop your business and wholesale change to a new solution. If what you have is in place is working and you're looking to complement and enhance what you're getting out of it, we have many ways to both collaborate with those tools, integrate and provide better insights and ability to activate on that information that you have and those processes with a numerous amount of tools, but integration engines, open APIs with our CG Cloud and tools like the MuleSoft Anypoint Connect solution. We have ability to ingest that data and then potentially augment and up-level your engagement as well as your insights and ability to activate on those different insights are the tools you have in place. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so our CG Cloud just was delivered in October. It just became GA. So a lot of this we've been utilizing the core platform and great partners like PolSource and CPGToolBox to provide those analogous use cases. But that in basically the necessity to tie all these disparate systems basically has pushed us to that even preceding CG Cloud. So numerous examples, and we could probably discuss this, afterwards about some of those use cases.
And then I'll probably last question. On this is mostly retail, what we've seen today, but your solution, does it also work with other market segments such as food service or food service restaurants, etc.? Can it manage that as well?
Yeah, great question. So the question is, does our tool work within other sort of disciplines within consumer goods, and that would be food service or any of those types of rebate tools. And so as I mentioned at the beginning, we do have a rebate management solution which allows for the usage in a use case like food service, where you're not planning against an individual unique event, An individual unique event is something to the tune of I have these products being on sale this time of the at such and such a price. In food service, it's more amorphous. It is a time where you're accumulating rebates for a buying organization known as the GPO. And so that buying organization, think P.F. Chang, they're buying rice all across the country from multiple distributors, and they're being paid by that rice manufacturer a rebate against all of their purchases, and that's what our rebate management tool does. So, so the answer is yes. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Ask it, or so if we think about coming from nothing like David did.
Thank you. If you think about coming from zero like David did and what you done about trade promotion, optimization, TPO, new term for me. I don't have my history. It's all kind of a mess. But what you're showing me is how do I learn from my past to predict my future? What's the solution there look like? Is there any way to log in what I've done in the past so I can start to prepare models? So if this year's holiday looks like 2013 versus with the shopping duration, all that stuff.
So being somewhat, I'm nowhere near Austin's capability, but being somewhat of an aficionado of TPO, TPX, if you have 104 weeks of history, you typically are about where you need to start. So any history that you have, we always bring in an implementation, we always bring in at least 2 to 3 years of history into the tool. And therefore you're able to then move that data into the TPO models and they begin to be predictive in nature. Of course, the whole power of TPO is that you're not only predictive from previous history, but it's self-guiding as you go forward in history as well. So as you get more history, it informs or self-guides the models, and so you become cleaner and cleaner, tighter and tighter in terms of your predictability.
How does it manage that volume of data? If you are a global CPG company that has millions of records and
yes.
are in 4 different market segments, how would it handle that volume of data to move it through your API?
That's a great question. A couple of things come to mind to answer your question. Number one, our chief architect is not here. He's home building out activity for Mattel. He's working on some very tight timelines to deliver, so he's not here. But he has built a great time series data model, and that means something in the cloud. We have been able to optimize large, big data in the cloud, and that's not easily done. Those of you who are in the business, so not only are we able to do that, and we're able to store millions and millions of rows of data, if it ever exceeds the logical capability of the Force.com data model, we would then move you over to Heroku. And if you're not familiar with Heroku, it's a tool that was bought by Salesforce, and it's on AWS, and can manage terabytes of data with our presentation layer in Salesforce bolted on top. We did promise you $100 for every question, right?
In terms of your customer base, I know you mentioned that you did your customer base first. Is your customer base sitting in Salesforce, or is it sitting in your ERP solution? And are you reading views from your customer base, or how did you go about doing that?
Now, when you say customer base, you're talking about accounts that are in the ERP system? Yeah.
Sure. So, so the question is, how did we go about setting up our customer master? Does it reside elsewhere, or does it reside in Salesforce? What we did is our customer master resides in our order management systems around the globe. But these are all localized solutions. So they don't have a common hierarchy or architecture. So we've ingested them at their level and then defined what are our common levels that then we've remapped them so that we can then put CPGToolBox at a specific layer so that when we talk, when we act, when we evaluate, when we assess, it's all at a common level across the globe. So we've had to work with what we've had. I think if we were starting fresh, you might start with a 30-layer customer master and populate all your things, but we worked with what we had, and it seems to work for us.
And then, so we have quite a standard. We own a SAP shop, one SAP shop, but we've got a standardized hierarchy. But one of the things we're struggling with is the granularity of that hierarchy, because we could have distributors and you want to see all your dailies, etc. underneath it. Is that something that you can then leverage the CPGToolBox or Salesforce to actually break it down into more granular hierarchies than what you have in your ERP system?
Yes, we're doing a project with a major salty snack manufacturer who is on SAP, and they have two channels per se, an OT channel, which is modern trade, and a traditional channel. And as Austin mentioned, we are enhancing the system to be able to manage traditional trade. In the U.S., that's probably 10% of the business, but in other parts of the world, it is upwards of 40%, 30–40% of all the trade. And so you're able to bring those activities into the tool. We, in this particular salty snack manufacturer, we're bringing in level 7, which is essentially customer format. And although we can also bring in sold to, which is store level, and then cobble it up to a customer format, certain set of stores. So we're able to do that. It's just a matter of the integration process working. And by the way, PolSource is very good on SAP integration.
You mentioned some indirect functionality coming soon. What kind of use cases is that coming on?
So a question around indirect functionality. So one of the biggest challenges, and you've touched on it, I think, in your previous questions, what we're trying to address is the link between a manufacturer, so a producer like yourselves, through to your distributor or wholesaler, and then through to the actual end, the end customer, not necessarily the consumer, and the various price points and discounts and rebates in that equation. It's not uncommon, it sounds like you're global, so in many of the markets you operate, you'll have what you may call, key accounts. So let's take Russia, for example, a Lenta or an X5, but you won't necessarily be servicing them all across the country, you'll be using a distributor. So how do you manage that rebate? And that's exactly the functionality that we're building, so that you can cascade both trade terms and promos. You can have both authorized and non-authorized distributors, or if they choose to buy from a distributor that isn't aware, you can then rebate them in accordance with the agreement you've got with that end customer. So that's the functionality that's going in there. Obviously, how you default, how you mix and match. There was a little bit of it shown there. It was a very small screenshot, but you could select, this distributor, this is the rebate I pay back. So you get all that locked down.
And that would accrue at that level as well?
Yeah, it both accrues and settles against that. I mean, in your instance, we'd be capturing that, and it'd be really just triggering a release back to SAP. And same with pricing conditions. With Vistex, we just trigger back a pricing condition.
And you can do off-invoice deductions, claims, rebates, etc. And if you have a solution that already runs your deductions and does it for you through an AI tool, can you leverage that as well? Can you incorporate that?
Yeah, let me pass to Rick.
Yes, as a matter of fact, probably one of the most difficult processes to get right in the tool is auto matching claims to events on the calendar. We're leveraging AI. It's one of our major projects for 2020 is to leverage Einstein Discovery to try to figure out how to do those matches. We already can do auto settlement within the tool, but to match those claims up is huge, and so that's an area we're working on. And as Austin alluded to, we can do price condition records and then accrual records as well, back into SAP or whatever ERP system you might be on.
So we've already got a tool that matches some of our
Yes.
deductions in some of our industries. Are you able to take that matches and then apply it to your
Yes. As a matter of fact, is it a high radius or something? Yeah. Okay, so high radius is we're able to bring high radius information back into the tool where the match has happened, and then execute within the tool so that we're managing not only the accrual records, but we're also managing the funds as well. So we're decrementing the funds when that activity comes back in.